He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. These words from the first chapter of John and the ones that follow express what is called John's incarnational perspective. It pervades every story John tells about Jesus in his gospel. It creates for him his understanding of God's true nature. It defines who he is in relationship to his God and in relationship to others around him. John Williamson Nevinson, writing in the 19th century, exclaimed, "The Word became flesh." In this simple but sublime enunciation, we have the whole gospel comprehended in a word. The incarnation is the key that unlocks the sense of all God's revelations. It is the key that unlocks the sense of all God's works and brings to light the true meaning of the universe. The incarnation forms thus the great central fact of the world. This concept, of course, is also what separates history from theology and distinguishes a convenient sort of pseudo-faith from the faith of a true believer. Few question now that a man named Jesus lived in the first century, gaining some fame for his teachings. In fact, many admire Jesus and take guidance from the lessons he taught. From a purely humanistic point of view, it is kind of hard to ignore Jesus and still have any moral ground to stand on. But to go so far as to ascribe divinity to the man called Jesus, that is a bridge too far for many people. Bridge, however, may be just the word we need. Jesus is, in his person, the bridge between humanity and God. In his gospel, John equates Jesus with the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. The Word became flesh and lived among us. The concept is really much older than Christianity. The word, or logos for the Greeks, was the connection within the human mind with what is real. And it's also the way by which all things actually came to be. 500 years before the coming of Christ, a Greek scholar named Heraclitus wrote, "For though all things came to be in accordance with this logos, humans are like the inexperienced when they experience such words and deeds as I set out, distinguishing each in accordance with its nature and saying how it is. But other people fail to notice what they do when awake, just as they forget what they do while asleep." In other words, logos is grounded in truth and encompasses the ability that is given to some to fully comprehend it. Although the logos is common, Heraclitus wrote, most people live as if they had their own private understanding. The Jewish people called this sense of what is real and true wisdom and advised everyone to seek it. The one who gets wisdom loves life. The one who cherishes understanding will soon prosper. So the author of Proverbs wrote, "The beginning of wisdom is this," he said, "get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding." For them, there was never any question about the source of this wisdom. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. This then is what John means when he says, "The Word became flesh and lived among us." Logos links what was incarnated with the creator of all that is, and then says the two are the same. Jesus is the incarnation of both reality and the source of wisdom to perceive it. In that way, Jesus is a true revelation. In him, what was and what will be are both combined, for he is the means by which creation came to be, and also the means by which a new creation will come to be. In him, the nature of God, now made flesh, is revealed, and through him there comes the means to perceive what we never could before, the true nature of God. As one person wrote, "God walked around in skin, and it changed the world." Our response to the life of Jesus is also what defines us now. John saw how people seem to naturally fall into one of three categories. There are those who do not know him. They have no knowledge and Lacking this, they have no knowledge of themselves either. These people he perceived to be like those who are lost in a dark place. They stumble through life with no purpose and no way to perceive or understand life at all. For them, Jesus offers a way to have life more abundantly now. They can live in concert with truth and understanding rather than in ignorance and darkness. The good news is that the true light, which enlightens everyone, came into the world in Jesus. Like a stranger approaching us in a dark room to say, I know where you are and who you are and why you are. And I can lead you out of this darkness that you have been sitting in into a place where the light is shining. The first step out of the darkness is knowledge of God. John also saw, however, that there were a whole group of knowledgeable people who were still not ready to accept Jesus as the Son of God. Surprisingly, they are the ones who should have found it easy to do so. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. For generations, they had known about God, and they had been God's people. But now, when Jesus showed up as the very incarnation of all that they believed, they rejected him. He was a stranger to them. He pitched his tent beside their own, and yet they perceived him to be no greater than any other human teacher, just as many people still perceive him. Many see Jesus as only a man with some peculiar ideas about morality, claiming it to be something simple, like just making the choice to love one another. Can 1,000 years of rules and laws really be summed up that easily? Can the ethical foundation of the universe truly be realized by adopting such a creed? A great many people, even those with some knowledge of God, still refuse to believe that it can. And still others find it hard to believe that the universe has any ethical foundation at all. Perhaps it is all just chaos without order. And therefore, that is the way we should live our life. It is every man, woman, and child for themselves. So we should just embrace the chaos. By rejecting Jesus, these people have divorced themselves off from their Creator. There is a greater meaning to life that they will never experience. The law indeed was given through Moses, John wrote, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. They have neither grace nor truth because they have not believed. The third group of people no longer lives in such darkness, nor have they chosen to reject the truth of Christ. Therefore, they alone are the ones who can say, we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. And here, incarnation starts to take on another meaning. As Jesus came into this world to be the light of the world, so also he has made it possible for us to become light for others who are still in darkness. From his fullness, we have all received grace upon grace, and therefore we have enough to spare. We can afford to be forgiving and to love one another. We are realists, and we know that cruelty exists in this world, but we do not have to be a part of that cruelty anymore, because we know the Creator, and we know how this world was always meant to be. Admittedly, no one has ever seen God, but we also know, like John, that it is God, the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known. Therefore, we have gained wisdom, which enables us day by day to incarnate a part of him in us. There is a little bit of him now in who we are. This process of incarnation still continues today. To all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God. We are his new creation by water and the word. Because John Williamson Nevin was a professor at the Theological Seminary at Mercersburg, his teaching has come to be known as the Mercersburg theology. Its cardinal principle is the fact of the incarnation, so he wrote. Those who embrace this perspective believe that Christ saves the world not ultimately by what he teaches or by what he does, but by what he is in the constitution of his own person. Jesus is a bridge to the divine for all of us, for all of humanity. As someone once noted, Nevin starts with the whole before the parts, and the whole is indeed greater than the sum of the parts. I believe that when we begin with this understanding of Jesus as the incarnate Word of God made flesh, we are better able to let the Word of God incarnate find a home in us as well. It is practical theology. It becomes a part of our understanding of reality, which can shape our relationship with God and with each other in positive ways. When Cal Ripken Sr. was inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame, his son, Cal Ripken Jr., gave a speech. At one point, he told a true story about his own children, ages 6 and 3, who were bickering with each other one day. He heard Rachel, his daughter, taunting Ryan, his son, by saying, "You are just trying to be like Dad." Cal stepped in and said to her, "What is wrong with trying to be like Dad?" After telling them all this story in his speech, Cal looked at his father and said simply, "That's what I've always tried to do." As Christian believers, we have long aspired to become more like Jesus. Jesus himself said, "It is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me." Therefore, by seeking to become more like Jesus, we are really just embracing our own identity as the children of God. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. So Jesus told us. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. All of that is true because the Word became flesh and lived among us. May the transforming Word of God also live within each of you. Be safe, and God bless you.